2.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We're waiting here for a while and letting people in. And Sandy, wave Sandy Moffat. Okay, so Sandy Moffat, you're okay. You are the Sandy Dandy. We were trying to figure out if that was you or not. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to start here in a little bit. I hope that everybody got a chance to download and print your agenda. We had a glitch on the first email that went out. So if you go back, you should have gotten another email with the agenda on it. And anyway, so everybody's got to connect to audio. So we're going to do a couple of different things today. I'm going to do the first part of it, and then starting with the announcements, Donna is going to take over and do the rest. But we also have a surprise. We're going to do like a breakout room. We're going to do like a meet and greet thing today. So it might sound scary, but hey, it's going to be fun because you'll actually get to talk to each other. So I might mention, because a few of you have probably figured it out, but you will be able to unmute yourselves today. So, but I do ask you to be very aware if you have background noise, like if someone's doing the dishes or somebody's, watching TV, or you've got screaming children, we will mute you. But during the breakout rooms, you will be able to unmute yourself and visit with other people. So we haven't been able to do that for a while. So
Before we start, I have a question.
who's talking? Wait a minute. Oh, that's Beth. Okay.
Yes. I haven't been able to go to meetings late, even before the pandemic started, because we give food away on the third Saturday of the month, and I had to be involved in that. I am approaching the year when I joined, and there's a renewal, and it was in June of last year. So how do I go? Do I just go to the website? And how do I pay my dues for the coming year?
Okay,
because
Beth.
usually I did it just in the room.
Right, exactly. And you know what? I do have membership renewals on here. So when it comes to, when Donna starts talking about membership renewals, I think I'm going to have Sandy talk about it just for a moment.
Okay,
Sandy, wave again, our Sandy Dandy there. She's our membership chair.
Okay.
And so it is going to be online this year.
Okay.
Or you can mail it in. I mean, I will say that, but
Okay.
you'll be able to mail it in. But it all depends on if you've paid for the summer conference. So anybody that's paid for the summer conference, okay. Because if they paid, then we can also apply that overage. But anyway, Sandy, I mean, I've kind of answered the question, but is that the only way to pay then? Obviously is through on the website and then also mailing it in?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And I will keep myself muted because there are seagulls out here talking to each other.
Yeah, we don't want to hear about you being in Morro Bay and seagulls. So
Sorry.
you just had to wear. I don't think you should have a jacket on because that just gives you away completely.
It's chilly out here this morning.
I don't feel sorry for you at all. So.
Okay.
And just so you guys know that don't know us, the board, we honestly love each other. I mean, we're good friends and we give each other a bad time all the time. And Sandy, I'm thrilled that you're in Morro Bay, but I don't want to admit it out loud. But now it's recorded so everybody knows. So anyway, I am going to get started. And so because you can unmute yourself and like I said, use it very, be aware if there's noises behind you and then also be aware if somebody walks behind you too, because I was teaching a class this spring and one of the participants, her husband walked behind her in his underwear. Now I didn't see it because we had it on active speaker, so we only saw me, but she was so horrified she slammed her laptop shut, which cut off her connection and she was out of the class. So just to be aware, make sure, like I know we've got Richard and Debbie Meeks on there, so Debbie, make sure Richard doesn't walk by in his underwear or something like that. I know he's right there with you. I saw him. So.
And Greg is relegated to the hotel room till after this meeting's over.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. We won't go into details. So. Anyway,
If I could just jump in for a second, we are recording the session, and if you forget to unmute yourself and you laugh, your picture shows up. So you really do need to be aware of that mute and unmute. So.
And stop video and start video, yeah. So, all right, so welcome to our June meeting. This is actually the last meeting of our fiscal year. So our new fiscal year starts next month in July. And yes, memberships are, we've gotten a couple questions, but memberships will be due starting July 1st. So, and you'll have a few months to pay them. So it's not like that second on July 1st, you have to do it. And I'm Joan Raymond, president of Writers of Kern. And for those that don't know me, Sandy. So what I want to do is, if you have not ever been to a meeting before and you feel comfortable, I mean, you can either just wave to us, or if you want to unmute yourself, just tell us who you are and what type of writing you do. So anybody here brand new? Never been to a meeting before. Okay, Marilyn, do you want to just say anything about yourself? Because all you have to do is unmute. Oh, there you go.
Okay, I don't do any professional writing. I wrote a lot as I was working. I enjoy writing, journaling, and I'm looking forward to today's speaker.
Awesome, thank you, welcome. Who else? Judy, Marty, was that another person? Do you know how to unmute yourself, Judy?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you talking to me, Judy, or is there another Judy?
No, there's another Judy. There's a Judy Marty.
I'm sorry.
Judy Marty.
That's okay.
Hi.
Hi, Marilyn.
Okay, Judy Marty.
Yes.
You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, Judy Marty. I just retired a couple of years ago and been wanting to come to this meeting for a long time, so I'm happy to be here today. Looking forward to the speaker as well. I've read about
Awesome.
her in the paper, so I'm anxious to hear from her.
Awesome, welcome. Anybody else brand new or haven't been here for a long time?
So
Okay.
I'm Linda Sanders.
There you go.
So hi, I am here primarily because I'm the president of the Santa Clara County Genealogy Society, and Judy will be our
Oh.
speaker next month. Yay, Judy. And I am interested in writing my family history, sort of a biography of the family. And so I'm hoping to get a lot of good tips from Judy today.
That's awesome. Okay, I saw somebody else. I apologize, I don't know how to say your name, but go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Ada Yinka Glover. I live here in Bakersfield, and this is the first meeting that I'm attending. I've been actively researching my family history over the past few years, and I saw about this event. I saw in the newspaper about this event yesterday,
cool.
so I signed up. I think I have partnered with the Writers of Kern in the past. I am a member of the Bar Association here, and we had a writing competition with students a couple years back.
Yes, we did. It was when we were doing the Young Writers of Kern. Yes. Yep. That was at least 2 years ago. Okay, so we have a message. Carla Stanley says, hi, no camera. I took Joan's class, writing memoirs and fiction and writing family history. So Carla Stanley, oh, that's right. Since she has no camera, then we won't be able to see her. But welcome, Carla. Anybody else? Brand new or haven't been to a meeting in a very, very long time? If not, then we will go forward. I really kind of like this. People can unmute themselves because we're hearing people's voices. I love it.
Joan, there's a Linda Flores who's new.
Okay. I'm not seeing her. Oh, there you are, Linda.
Hi. Yeah, this is my first time to attend a meeting, and I kind of mimic what the other lady said, that I'm into genealogy and interested in writing family history, and I do a little bit of writing for some newsletters and things like that, but mostly I'm interested in the family history stories.
Perfect. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. Anybody else? Sorry, just to make sure. Anybody else? Charles, are you brand new?
I am. So good morning, everyone. I have to go get coffee. My apologies. But I'm actually friends with Yinka, and so Yinka sent me the link yesterday, and similar to her, I'm also working on my family genealogy. And actually, interesting. It's very like divine timing because I'm going to a memorial service next week in Houston. So I feel like this will give me like, I know what kind of questions or information list. So after we celebrate the life, like, oh, so tell me more. So I'm excited.
Yeah. When we went back, my family, or my husband and I went back to Minnesota to see all my relatives in 2004. My husband does genealogy, and he took the laptop, and every one of my cousins he cornered and said, all right, tell me something about yourself. Tell me about this. And so far he's got 4,000 people on my side, the family tree. And it's like, wow, there's a million of them. So
Yeah, Charles, if they will let you, do the voice memo on your phone so that you can record it so you don't miss anything.
Yep,
Thank you
that's a
for
good
that.
idea. That's a good idea, Sandy. Thank you. Okay, so what we normally do at our meetings, and this is like in the last 30 days or whatever since our last meeting, how many people, and just a show of hands, you don't have to unmute yourself. How many people by a show of hands submitted something to some publication? Sandy, Marilyn? Oh, sorry, my Google's talking to me. That's pretty cool. I better ignore it, right? Sorry. Okay, so I missed a few people. I saw Sandy, Charles, awesome. Anka, Marilyn. I'm sure I'm missing a few. But that's great. That's great. Let's all applaud. Yay. Okay, then the next question is, and this is always the hard one, how many people have been rejected in the last 30 days from something that you submitted? Anka, yay. And we always clap because it's a big deal. Anka, anybody else been rejected, have their writing rejected or submission? I'm looking around. Do you see anybody else? Oh, Judy, you've been rejected in the last 30 days? Oh, no. So what we do here, to me, rejections are a huge thing because you're all by yourself and you either get an email or you get nothing or you get a letter. And it's really hard to be by yourself. But we always say when you come to Writers of Kern, we celebrate rejection. So, if you ever get a rejection, just know the next month you can raise your hand and we'll all applaud you. So that's pretty cool. And the last thing is success stories. Now this, you can unmute yourself and just for a couple moments, but if you have a success story, you've been published, you've self-published something, gotten recognized for your writing. Charles, are you raising your hand for that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So interestingly enough, with the whole COVID situation, I'm embracing the term writer now. So I actually was presented by a mentor of mine who's launching a magazine. So I wrote my first 3 articles ever. And I'm excited for that opportunity. But a couple of years ago, I actually launched a children's book.
Oh, cool.
And I kept saying I was going to do a series, and I just haven't. So with the whole COVID, I was like, well, now you have no excuse. So I've been working on that. So
awesome.
I'm currently in the production phase for the next book.
Congratulations. That's a great success. Anybody else have a success that you want to share? Sandy?
I sent a piece to Reader's Digest for their All in a Day's Work little joke section, and it's tentatively scheduled to appear in the September issue.
Yay, that's awesome. Anybody else? Anka? You got to unmute yourself.
I just had 2 poems accepted by an online literary journal. And then I have like 3 other pieces still in the works I'll hear about in August.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's great. Anybody else? And if I miss you, just unmute yourself if I have missed you. So, because I'm trying to look and see.
All right, Joan, me.
Yes, Donnie.
I recently published a new novel right here. It's called Burn Daily Desires. So I just published that May 25th, and it's doing pretty well. So I just wanted to say that I'm excited about it.
That's awesome, Donnie. Yay. And as being one of your critique partners, I will recommend her book fully. It's amazing. So, Okay, I think that's it. If I've missed you, just unmute yourself quick. Oh, Jeanette, right?
Well, I actually published this a few months ago, but I don't really like to draw attention to myself. But this is called Book Formatting for Self-Publishers, and it's actually a new edition, and I have one for the Mac and for the PC, and it tells people all about the self-publishing industry and how to format your book for print, ebook, and do the covers. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very awesome. So many talented people. I just love this group. Okay, so what we're going to do now is called breakout rooms. And if you've never done a breakout room before, I promise you it's not that scary. It's just a little weird. So what we're actually going to do, I'm looking, we have 34 people. Quick math. If I want 5. If I want 5 people in a room, how many rooms is that, Donnie? Somebody. I can't hear you, Jenny.
6.8, 7 rooms.
7 rooms. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to break everybody up, and it's going to be 7 rooms. So what you're going to see is you're actually going to see, and I'm just doing this randomly, so I have no idea who's going into what room. And so basically you have to accept the invitation, and you will go into a room with 4 or 5 other people. And hopefully this works. I've done it with my students. Some of us that taught before, we've done it, and it really is a cool thing. So basically you will be in your own little room with 4 or 5 other people, and then you can just chat. And we're just going to do this for 5 minutes, but a lot of us are feeling kind of we're not seeing a lot of people. And so this is a way for you to unmute and then just say, hi, my name is, people can see your name, but just talk about whatever you want to talk about. But if you want to keep it writing related, like, you write memoir, you write children's, like Charles said, so we're just going to take 5 minutes and try it out. And then at the end, you'll see like the 60 seconds until the room closes. So you can either come back to the main room at that point, or you can wait till the room closes and you have no choice and it'll bring you back. So, but it is fun. Okay, so how many, Jenny, did you say? We can do 8 rooms.
7 rooms.
Okay, if I do, well, it just automatically is telling me 8 rooms.
Oh, okay.
So, all right, so I'm gonna do this and you guys will see there's, let's see, there'll be 5 to 4 in each room. And you know what? Somebody else is just joining right now. So I am going to go ahead and do this. All right. And you have to join and you'll.
Hi, Sandy. Oh, need to unmute.
Sorry. And Carla Stanley, who has no photo.
I have no photo, no, but I was in class with you too.
Oh, yes. I was going to say good to see you again, but.
But you never have.
I know.
So I am retired, so that puts me at 67. And I was an English teacher and a theater teacher.
Where?
At Shafter High and at East High.
Nice.
So now that I actually have time of my own, I'm writing.
How long ago did you retire, Carla?
3 years.
Do you remember a theater student named Lucy or Lucas Helm?
No.
Okay. That's my niece / nephew. And she was in the Addams Family thing, and then one before that.
Okay, she was at East High then.
Yeah, at East.
I retired from Shafter, so.
Okay. Well, thank you for teaching. That's so important. And Jenny.
What class were you 2 in together?
Joan's class.
Joan had a writing class.
Right.
A couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is recording. I'm going to pause the recording. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, since I wasn't in there with you guys, how did it work? Did everybody, what'd you think of that? Did it work? Okay.
I'm gonna unmute myself for a minute. I apologize to my group. I didn't realize how short 5 minutes was. And in sharing, I minimized the others' participation. So my apologies to the other people in my breakout group. Now shut up.
Well, it's funny because I'm sitting here waiting for 5 minutes and it seems like, oh my gosh, we've been here like an hour. I'm like, you know, so for me, I'm on the other end of it waiting for everybody to come back. Yes, Sandy, too short. I agree. This was just an experiment. If you guys, because I didn't want to leave you in there a long time if it was like going really bad. But, or, you know, but if it works, this is something we're going to start doing on a regular basis, and we will do it longer. Because I wanted people to have a chance to talk. And, you know, that's one thing I miss being at the meetings. I miss talking to everybody. So, so yes, longer is good. I agree, Anka. I mean, actually, I would do it for about 10 minutes, but then other people would be like, oh my gosh, what do we do for 10 minutes? But, you know, just pretend this is like you're sitting at the tables at the meeting and you're just chatting with the people around you at the table. So, you know.
I think 5 minutes went really fast. It was fun to meet.
Like I said, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like, you know, I'm all by myself. So I should have just dropped in on a few groups. That's good, Jenny. All right, so the experiment worked. It's a go. We'll do it from now on. Okay, so now what we do is useful moments. And useful moments, for those who haven't been here before, is, Donna, are you doing useful moments or am I? I can't remember.
You are.
Okay, that's why I was just, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to do that. Okay, so what useful moments is that I give a 1 or 2 word prompt, and honestly, I come up with it like right now. So, and you'll have 3 minutes to write. And this is important because starting next month, we're going to start taking submissions for our anthology. And one of the categories is useful moments. So say what you write, and you know, then you can submit it. Members only for our anthology. So that's one thing to remember. All right, so I am going to give a 1 word prompt, and I am going to watch the clock for 3 minutes. And then at the end, if you want to share, we're going to have about 3 people share. I prefer that you raise your hand and I call on you. Do not unmute yourself and just start talking, because this, you know, we do want to bring Judy on here pretty soon. So, all right. So their prompt today is, ready? Ribbon, R-I-B-B-O-N, ribbon. And it starts, I'm waiting for my clock, now for 3 minutes to write. Anything you want on ribbon. Okay, pencils down, pens down, hands up, like, you know, when you watch those cooking shows. Okay, I'm looking for about, well, I guess you have 3 or 4, but let's have 3 people share. But like I said, raise your hand and wait until I call on you. So Debbie, is your hand raised? Okay, Debbie Meeks. All right, go ahead and unmute yourself, Debbie, and read.
Okay. It's very short.
That's okay.
It's, my life is like a ribbon of highway, winding around to meet dead ends, turning to meet new endeavors, finding a purpose.
That's awesome. Useful moments are supposed to be very short, usually 100 words or less, 200 words or less. I mean, it's only 3 minutes, so that's awesome.
Okay.
Anka, I think I saw your hand raised, right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Ribbons of protesters chant in reds, blacks, whites, yellow, browns. Ribbons decorate the street, multi-memories and ages and faiths, diversity. Some wrap a gift of hope, some use to start a fire, for others to blow out the candle, a birthday for a movement seeking justice.
That's awesome. One more. Martha or Marty. It says Martha, but I know you as Marty. So, and don't forget to unmute yourself. Marty, yeah, unmute.
Sorry.
There you
Okay. Ribbon, blue ribbon, hair ribbons, bows. I'm really not a ribbon person. I remember hair ribbons when I was a girl, and of course, ponytails and ribbons. And now there are ribbons for various causes, red ribbons for AIDS and pink ribbons for breast cancer. Those are now my ribbons.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Okay, everybody, so I am going to turn it over to our Vice President, Donna, and she's going to take it over and go all the way through introducing Judy. So,
yes,
thank
hi
you, Donna.
everybody. Yes. Okay, so for our first announcement, like Joan said, our walk anthology. So submissions for our walk anthology period is July 1st through August 31st, 2020. Details will be posted on the Writers of Kern Facebook group, online, and emailed to members, because this must be you must be a current member of Writers of Kern in order to submit anything for the walk anthology. Then we have membership renewals. So due July 1st, our membership renewal. So that's $45 for returning members and $65 for new members. I'm going to stop for a second because I don't know if Sandy, if you want to elaborate any more on membership renewals.
Just remember that if you came in as a half-year member last year, you still need to renew for this year, but you don't have to pay that additional $20 that you did, before. The fiscal year for California Writers Club starts in July, but you have July, August, till the end of September to renew your dues. And any of those new folks who have recently sent in checks or via PayPal, you will officially be listed as July 1st. So if you sent us money in May, you've gotten the last month and a half for free. But if you do not renew by the end of September, the system automatically deletes you. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm the state membership chair. There's nothing I can do about it. It'll delete you, and you will have to pay that $65 again. So whatever you do, don't let your membership lapse. You can wait till the last day of September, but if it's October 1st, sorry.
And Donna, I'm going to interrupt for a minute too, if you don't mind. So because we're meeting online right now, I mean, normally we would meet at hotels, and it would be $10 for members and $15 for non-members to attend the meetings. Right now, during the lockdown, all of our meetings, except for the conference next month, all of our meetings are free, and they are being recorded, and the recordings are being put up. So, but with your membership, you do have access to critique groups, which we have at least 8 critique groups right now. They're meeting online. And so there are benefits to membership. Being in the anthology is one of them. And the anthology submissions are going to be July 1st through August 31st. So if you want to be included in the anthology, you do have to either join or renew your membership by August 31st. So that is the one. If you're not going to submit to the anthology, then you have until the end of September. So, and if you have questions about membership, if you have a agenda, but you'll see on the back that there is a membership at writersofkern.com email, and please email us and ask questions. So, okay, I'm done.
Okay. Okay, so our spring conference is now our summer conference. And, of course that happened because of issues with COVID-19 and everything. So, and that's why we're meeting online, and our summer conference will also be online as well. So registering online, there's a link if you have an agenda. If not, I'm sure you'll be able to find that link on the Facebook group, online, and on our website. So make sure that you register for the spring conference. It is next month. July 18th, I believe. I believe it's the 18th, July 18th. So yeah, make sure that you register for the the summer conference. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have 4 amazing speakers. So make sure that you go ahead and register for that. Joan, I don't know if you have anything extra you want to add about that.
We are going to be recording I know I want to call it the spring conference too. Actually, I put spring conference, so yes. So the spring conference, which is now in the summer, it is going to be recorded. It's going to be pretty much from 9 in the morning till 3 or so in the afternoon. But we are going to take like 10-minute breaks between the speakers so people, at home can get up, walk around, do whatever. It's going to be recorded, but the link to the recording is only going to go to the people that have registered. So, just to let you know, you don't have to sit there for 6 hours and watch the whole thing. But yes, we're going to have 4 major speakers and then 3 spotlight speakers too. So a lot of fun, and you can find all the information on our website, writersofkern.com events, and you'll see the conference information. Yes, Janet.
If we had registered previously.
Yes, let me address that. Yes, if you've registered previously, it was $65 and $75 for guests. So because of the lockdown, we've just made it $20, affordable for everybody. But yes, if you registered way back when, and so obviously you paid $20, but there's still a $45 overage, we are more than happy to take that $45 and apply it to your dues for next year. You just have to let us know. And next week or soon after, there's going to be an email going to everybody who registered, and just so we can make sure that if you still want to attend, and if you want to attend, do you want that $45 back, or do you want it applied to dues? So
okay, so the next thing that we have are our board elections. So I'm going to turn it over to Janet and to Sandy, and they're going to handle our board elections. And you can unmute yourself, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 4 positions that are voted on by the membership: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Sandy, do you want to explain how we'll be voting, how to vote?
We are going to be, unless Joan has changed something, we're going to be doing a show of hands. And we need you to keep your hand up because Janet and I have to physically count all the hands. And if there's
did you want to do these hands, Sandy, or did you want to do the one where people can actually raise their hand?
I think let's raise this hand. Okay. Because not everybody knows how to do that, raise the hand on the screen, but I think everybody knows how to do this. But just keep your hands up and give Janet and I a second to count, and we'll let you know. This is an odd way for us to do this, but be patient with us and we'll get it all taken care of.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay. We have not had any nominations come in to the website. All 4 of the current board members have agreed to stay on. Joan Raymond as president, Danae Harris as vice president, myself as secretary, and Sin Bermuda as treasurer. But are there any nominations from the floor for president?
I see no hands raised on this screen. Let me click to the next one. I see no hands raised. I see no hands raised.
Okay, then it automatically goes to Joan Raymond. She's our continuing president. Our next position is held by Danae Harris, that's Vice President. Do we have any nominations from the floor for Vice President?
No hands on this screen. No hands on this screen. No hands.
Okay, congratulations, Danae. You will continue on as our Vice President. For Treasurer, I'm sorry?
I think it's Sandy's seagulls are talking.
Sorry.
That's okay. For Treasurer, we have Sin Bermudez. Is there any other nominations from the floor?
I see no hands.
Thank you. So Sin Bermudez will continue as our treasurer. And lastly, we have secretary position. That is me, Janet Skabinski. Are there are there any other nominations from the floor? Are you sure?
Sorry.
I see no hands, and you know that we love you.
I know. Okay, then you're stuck with me for another year. And I just want to say I am so happy to be part of this organization and meet all the wonderful writers that there are here in Kern. Thank you. That concludes our election. We do have appointed positions, but the president appoints those. And Joan, I know we have critique coordinator open. Do we have any other positions?
Right now, the only position we do have open is critique group coordinator. And if a member is interested, then they need to email me at president@writersofkern.com. And we're also looking for some help with publicity because I know she's on here. And
yeah, I saw her.
Where's our publicity person? Oh my goodness, I can't see her. Anyway, Susan Baker, she's here. And so Susan does, there she is, I see Susan. She does an amazing job, but it would be great to have some help for publicity because it's a big job. So anyway, and this is something we do just once a year. So for all of you that are here today, you just got to witness our once a year board elections. So. All right, Donna, go ahead.
Okay, so we have our upcoming meetings, and as you can see, all meetings are online until further notice. So we're going to do all of our meetings, and that includes our summer conference. So July 18th, summer conference is from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., and the cost is $20. August 15th, we have Dr. Christina Gessler. Dr. Christina Gessler. Funds for Writers, How to Apply for Grants, Residencies, Scholarships, and Fellowships, and I'm pretty excited about that one. And September, right now, we don't have a speaker for September, and we're looking for speakers. So if you have anybody in mind, you can email me or Joan and let us know. And if you have, and make sure that they fill out a speaker proposal, and that will go to either me or Joan. Okay, so we're going to go on with our program. Our speaker today is Judy Billingsley, and she's going to talk about tips on researching, writing, and publishing your family legacy. And she has an amazing introduction, so I'm going to hand it over to you, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for inviting me, all of you, and especially Joan, who has really helped me out. I'm old school, so I am just learning Zoom. So thank you, Joan, and thank you, everyone who took the time out this morning to attend. I am going to hit the share button here. And I think I'm going to. Let's see. And I want to share a.
While you're getting ready to share, Judy, I want to mention that for everyone that's watching, we are recording this in speaker view, but if you want to just see, you know, Judy's screen easily, you can go to, if this might be a little confusing depending on if you have an iPad or you're on your computer, but you can go up to the top where it says view, and there's either gallery view where you can see all the squares, or speaker view where you'll see just the person speaking. So I strongly suggest you click on speaker view if you want a better view of Judy's presentation. Okay.
Hang on, I've got my, we did this yesterday and it went fine. So I'm trying to hit the share button here. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm trying to share my screen here.
It's not letting you?
No, it says one participant can share at a time. Do I have control?
You should. I mean, no one else is sharing.
Yeah, really. Okay.
Okay, if it doesn't work, I'm going to try something. I'm going to make you the meeting host. Okay, now see if you can do it.
It says share my entire screen.
There you go.
But for some reason, here we go. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Everyone can see it, right? Because I can't see. Okay. How I'm going to do the presentation is I'll talk a little bit about my book. I will give some lessons learned and tips in regards to what I learned, and we certainly will have opportunity for questions and answers. Joan, are we doing the questions through chat or?
Yes, if you have a question, and so if you have a question during Judy's presentation, you can go down to where it says mute, stop video, all that good stuff, and there's a chat function. So if you have questions for Judy, go ahead and type them into the chat. I know that when I watched her presentation the other day, I had a lot of questions. They were all answered as she did her presentation. So Bethany's asking, let's see, did the audio cut out for anyone else? I don't know. I'm still hearing it. Okay, so anyway, so go ahead and if you have questions, type them into the chat. Okay, so people can still hear. Type them into the chat, and then Donna, you and I will keep an eye on the chat. And then when it's time for questions and answers, we can help Judy with that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this PowerPoint presentation, what I did do is I am not going to read what's on the PowerPoint presentation. So that's why I left this screen up for a few minutes to just kind of let you read my bio. Oftentimes people will ask me, okay, you're from Bakersfield, so what high school did you graduate from? So I didn't put that in, of course, here, but I am a product of Bakersfield in regards to being raised there. I went to McKinley, Emerson, and then I attended Garces Memorial High School, where I graduated from Garces. So that's kind of my background. And then of course, getting my education there. My first teaching job was at West High School, and both of my sons graduated from West High School. So I think I've pretty much etched myself into being a local author. My book is about me finding both of my birth parents. And so that I was born in 1950, so therefore my realm of research is during the World War II era. And as I began thinking and realizing, knowing that I was adopted from the very beginning, my parents shared that with me, I began doing research as I got older and always wanted to find both of my birth parents. So realized that I was not the only one. I was not unique. My story might be a little unique, but I'm not unique in regards to being a occupied baby. And that number should be 37,000. I forgot to change that, but there were 37,000 occupation babies as a result of World War II. There were 5,000 of us in Germany that were born and basically more often than not sent to Kinderheims, where we were given up for adoption or raised by the Kinderheim. So that's my time period. I knew that I had an African American soldier father and a German, white German mother. My parents didn't know anything other than that. And when I say my parents, I'm talking about the parents that adopted and raised me in Bakersfield, okay? So when I say daddy and mama, I'm looking at talking about they were my parents. They were the ones that raised me, educated me, so they are my parents. But my birth parents, I always knew that one of these days I would find them. And in Germany, during World War II, we all know that there were definitely racial issues. Soldiers in the U.S. Army, Black African American soldiers, were slept in separate places. They were in a unit by themselves. So it was segregated. The same goes in regards to Germany, because remember, Hitler's in power, and the Aryan race was considered to be the race. And if you weren't an Aryan race, then you were basically kind of left out of a lot of things. And so us mixed children, we were called Misslerkinder, which were referred to as mutt children. And we were not accepted by society, especially when you're mixed with African American and German. And so therefore, that became an issue in Germany. One of the unique things about this war was that with us as children there is we literally were children without a country, because we weren't accepted by the Germans and the Americans didn't want us either. So I was raised in a small village, Bingenheim, Germany, which is about 45 minutes from Frankfurt. And I wanted to put the picture of this castle because when I go back there and visit, the actual castle right here, the stone, is one of the remaining pieces of the original village. And just wanted you to know that that was called a witch's tower, and they hung many people, about 250, that were accused of being witches in this village that I was raised in, way prior to my time, but I thought it was kind of a human interest story. This is the village church, which looks very nice now. They've done a lot of things to it. When I was in the village there, being raised, it wasn't as nice as it is now. But this is the church where, when you read my book, you'll see that I live down the street, of course, in this German village, which still is there today. It is the center of the village. So most of the places that you live and houses, you will walk out and see the church down the street. While I visited there and was doing my research, I did attend a service there in the church. It's absolutely beautiful. Also, what's significant about this church is that when my mother decided to give me up for adoption and send me to the Kinderheim, I was standing here playing on the lawn, and a black Cadillac came by, and I was handed off to the lady in the Cadillac and driven out of this village, never to see my parents and village and friends and my babysitter ever again until I began doing this research. I was taken 2 hours to St. Joseph Kinderheim. Actually, it's called Kinderheim St. Joseph in Mannheim, Germany. And this is what it looks like now. I did visit that Kinderheim and did share with them the time period that I was there, and they gave me a tour of it. It looks so beautiful compared to when I was there. I have a few pictures. So I drove 2 hours, headed to Mannheim when I was visiting and doing my research. And this is where in St. Joseph, it's still there today. It is full of children that are either going to be adopted or being raised there. Their parents may have given them up. It also has a segment in there, which I didn't realize, that Germany, if you are financially unable to take care of your kids as a parent, whether you're single or whether you're married, then you can go to the Kinderheim. There's quite a few of them around in Germany, and you literally leave your child there to live there until you get back up on your feet financially. And when you get back up on your feet financially, you come back and pick up your children. And it is not considered a stigma now to do that. Those of us that were born African American soldier father and German white mother, we were called brown babies. We were called brown babies through the German newspaper, which did a really remarkable job of advertising us being in the Kinderheims and saying, hey, these kids are up for adoption. Mrs. Grammer, Mabel Grammer, she is the one that she could not have children. Her husband was a soldier in the army stationed there in Germany, and she began visiting Kinderheims and decided, oh my gosh, there's so many of us brown babies in these Kinderheims, and she began adopting, and then decided that I'm going to help get these children parents. So we were advertised not only in the German newspaper, but here I have a copy of the it's the Afro Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland newspaper during this time period. And this is a picture of my, there with a nun, of my sister and I, and some other kids who they were advertising to be adopted. It was called the Brown Baby Project, Brown Baby Plan, and Mrs. Grammer, you can see her here. These are, she adopted 8 orphaned biracial children from the Kinderheims herself and brought them to the United States to live. This is an advertisement of my sister and I. I was born Uta Schaub. My sister was born Imgard Schaub. Peter, I mention him because he actually has a book out himself, and so I've met him on my Facebook page. But this is how we were advertised, and I show this, I have the actual newspaper, is that my parents, my adopted parents in Bakersfield, they saw this, and that's how our adoption began in regards to coming to America and coming to Bakersfield. These are other brown babies that are coming to the United States. Most were adopted throughout Europe to military families. throughout Europe. However, about 500 of us were sent to the United States. We had Mrs. Grammer, through Mrs. Grammer, she arranged the adoption of about 500 of us. So the Scandinavian airline was the one that contracted with her in regards to us flying to the United States. So that's a picture of a group of kids, and you can see there were numerous of us. This is a picture of my sister. She has the blonde hair there, and the nun, and I did some research and found out, of course, through my adoption papers, the name of the nun there who's holding me. I was the youngest, and we all are getting ready in Germany to board the Scandinavian airline plane there. And what happens is they hand us over to the stewardess. I guess it's no longer called stewardess. You can see how old I am. So they took care of me, and all of us, as we flew to New York. And New York was where all of our parents met us. And that was the first time that they saw us and we saw them, and basically drove or flew to wherever their homes were. So this is a picture. I met Juanita, the other girl there with the purse. She's visited my home years ago when I lived in Bakersfield. And that's Peter, who I have in contact with, the older young man. But that's how this process of adoption worked, and this is how we arrived in Bakersfield. Usually when I do my presentation, I have my bag, and so I just had to take a picture of the Scandinavian airline bag that I still have with my toys. Those were balls. They were actually real round rubber balls, but over the years, you can see they're pretty brittle, so I don't take it out much to show, but I wanted you to see that I still have my Scandinavian airline bag coming to America. These are my toys. Joe and Marie Fambro, they adopted my sister and I. And this is a picture shortly after we arrived in Bakersfield. My dad was started off in Bakersfield as a custodian, janitor, worked at the Haberfeld building downtown. I don't believe it's named that anymore. And he was cleaning floors, and you'd see the white businessmen coming in and talking about real estate and all of that. And so he got really interested in real estate and building homes. And so my dad established Imperial Floor Service Building, which was, he put hardwood floors into the homes that were being built by local contractors in Bakersfield, and then eventually moved into becoming a general contractor licensed himself. And he built many homes in Bakersfield and in Santa Maria, Tehachapi, and over where Magic Mountain is in Valencia. There's actually a Fambro Street around South High School. That was a housing tract that my dad built. He bought his first property in 1939, but because they wouldn't let African Americans buy property oftentimes, especially for real estate, Wayne Vaughn, actually my dad gave him the cash money and he bought the house, and then he quit claimed it over to my father, and that's how my father got into not only building homes, but also buying homes for rentals. This is my sister and I. We arrived in Bakersfield in 1953. My sister Joanne, you can see her there. This is her birthday, her first birthday. We got there in March. Her birthday is June 29th, which is coming up pretty soon. And this is her 6th birthday. And then me, I then had my first birthday October 1st and turned 3 years old. And it was published in the Bakersfield Californian. You can see in July 1953. I have the paper there. Just wanted you to know that I did get my citizenship. So I'm a naturalized citizen like my sister. And at the time we did that also, my parents fully adopted us and our name was changed to Judy and Joanne Fambro. So I have a birth certificate that's German and I have a birth certificate that's not a birth certificate, but yeah, I do. Adoption that changes my name. Why I wrote the book. One of the things that as you guys are researching your family history, one of the things about being adopted is that when I arrived in America, I arrived with that bag and toys. But I did not arrive with any baby pictures of myself. I did not arrive knowing anyone except for my sister, thank goodness. And so that sense of self, who am I, always lingered with me, always. And I remember in the 6th grade at McKinley Elementary School, we were to write about our parents, who do we most look like, that kind of thing. And I thought, I have no idea. And when we'd go to the doctor, even now, you know, a doctor will ask the history, and my mom's like, well, she's adopted, we don't know anything. So that triggered my motivation in saying, okay, I'm going to find both of my birth parents, even if it's just seeing them one time. The other motivating factor is basically about abandonment, trauma, grief, and loss. Someone said to me, and I don't remember who it was, but they said, you know, if your mama doesn't want you, no one does. And that statement, although it sounds very cruel, and it is, I have always remembered it. And I thought, does she love me? How could a mother give up her child? And of course, there are circumstances, and I do believe there are circumstances where, yes, it was best to do that. But still, there's a linger in my mind. When you're researching and looking and doing your family history, you know, and I'm going to talk about that in tips, is that you got to be prepared for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the abandonment, trauma, grief, and loss manifested itself in many ways in my life. I'm very focused, driven. When I get focused on something, I'm very accomplishment and goal oriented. And really a lot of that drive comes from my sense of self-worth, that I need to be successful. I need to prove that I am worthy. And I didn't realize how much that entered my life until I started doing some research on it and realizing that abandonment can come from a lot of different ways, not necessarily physically giving up, but I've met people who have read my book and they call and talk, and abandonment, a parent can be there, but not be a parent, you know, not be a loving parent, not being an attentive parent. So all of that comes into play. And how do you work on that? My self-identity, I needed to know. I did research. I researched over a lifetime, so please don't think that this just happened overnight. I didn't get my adoption papers from my dad, talking about Joe Fambro, didn't give them to me until I was about 25 years old. And he went up in the kitchen, stood on a chair, popped up the panels, and brought down a shoebox full of my adoption papers, transcribed from German to English. No pictures of me, but definitely I got a lot of information that helped kickstart my investigation. I found my birth father, and I write about this in my book. I'm not going into a lot of detail, but This is Earl J. Lawton. He was listed as my father on my adoption papers, and actually they had to do a lot of papers to get me even. I'm an international adoptee, so that there were a lot more papers than normal. And I was sitting on my bed one day, my kids were out, playing around, and I said, I think I'm gonna call. And for you young people, you may not know, but I know for some of you, you remember that information, you did dial 411 to get phone numbers and addresses from an operator. And so I called Virginia, Pemberton, I called Virginia, the state, and looked at where he was, and at least last known. And I called him up on the phone, and I reached my grandmother. She says, well, he doesn't live with me. And I did not say anything about looking for him as my father. I just said, hey, I'm doing my ancestry research, and his name, Earl's name, popped up, and I just wanted to talk to him to see how, what he knows as I'm continuing on my lineage. For me to have said, hey, I'm looking for my daddy, there would have been, may have been some resistance. And so I didn't want to threaten, and make anyone feel uncomfortable. I wanted the information, so I was very strategic about how I worded things. And she said, oh, honey, that's my son. And she gave me his phone number, and I did ask her a few questions. He was married, of course, and had kids and all of that. So I at least knew that when I called, I had to strategize differently. So I did call him. I hung up, and I called him, and I was praying, and I was prepared for rejection. But I have to say, I did not get rejection from him. He said, well, what's your birth date? And I told him, and he said, yeah, you're mine. And that was the best feeling I could have had, because I was prepared for the rejection. And so as you began to do your research, you may find that there may be some rejection, and that you have to be prepared for that rejection, because it may come, especially in my area of looking for my birth parents, who basically gave me up for adoption. This picture here is Hannah Laura. She's like a mother to me now, and Hannah Laura lives, and this is her husband Jacob, and they live in Bingenheim, the village where I was until being taken away to the Kinderheim. Hannah Laura's mother was my babysitter. She still lives in the same house across the street from the house I was raised in. And so everything is the same in the village. Hannah Laura was a teenager when I was in the village, and so she helped her mother babysit me and my sister Joanne. And this is a picture of Hannah Laura and Jacob. When I went to the village, I stayed with her. She was very instrumental in giving me a lot of information. I go back to Germany every other year, but I had to cancel this year because of the virus. But I do go to the village, and I stay in the village. Everybody knows I'm there, and I go talk. And it's a whole different world, because people open their house and grab you and say, come on in, and you visit. And so I got a lot of information about me and about my mother. And the lady that suggested tape recording and all of that, I didn't take a tape recorder, although I have done some of that, but I did every night on my iPad. I took notes on who I visited, what they said, and I still have those extensive notes as I did my visit, but my research as well. This is my mother, Elsie, and Nee means maiden name, so Elsie Nee Clausen. I found my information about my, I found information about my grandmother, And I have a picture of her, I'll show you. And then my grandfather was Rudolf Clausen, who was born in Nice, France. And this is my grandmother. She was born in Riga, Latvia, and she's an Anakazi Jew, which she's a descendant from Noah, one of the original factions of Jews. What was interesting about her is that, which would tie to my mother and to me, is that during the war, she was taken by the Nazi German soldiers and put in a concentration camp and died there. So I'm in the process. That's my next goal, is to find out which concentration camp she died in. She was married to Rudolf, who was German, and the Nazi soldiers actually came to the house and took her away. Somebody told the Nazi soldiers that she was Jewish, full Jewish. And so my mother, Elsa, was young then and witnessed that. And that had a drastic effect on seeing her mother being put into that back truck with all the rest of the Jews and driven away, and she never saw her mother again. My mother also was a teenager at that time and came home from school, and one day after her mother was taken to the concentration camp and came home thinking her father was going to be there, and he was gone, and she was left penniless and helpless, and so she really had to scrabble. So she had a tough life. And this is my mother, Elsa. This is my older sister, Helga, with the short hair. She's holding me. This is a 1950 picture. And this is my sister, Joanne. Joanne and I have the same mother, of course, and we also have the same father. Even though she has blonde hair and light eyes, the genes happen to connect a bit differently, but we are both full blood, and this is our half sister, Helga. And in the book, I talk about Helga as well, because I did meet Helga. I did meet my birth mother. It wasn't exactly the best pleasant meeting, but I had promised that I wanted to see her at least once, and once is all I saw her. My mother gave all three of us up. Joanne and I headed to Germany, and my mother had Helga playing with Hannah Laura. I showed you Hannah Laura here. Hannah Laura was a teenager at the time, and her mother babysat. And her mother babysat Helga as well, all three of us. And so once we went to the Bingenheim, my mother walked Helga across the street and gave her to Hannah Laura and Hannah Laura's mother because it was a school day. And so Helga went off to work and never came back to pick her up. So all three of us were given up. Through my research, I found that there were 6 of us. And my brother, Clausen, he was born in 1942 during the war. He was born to my mother. She had a relationship with a Nazi German soldier, and the soldier said because she was part Jewish, he wasn't marrying her. So she left my brother Clausen at 3 days old in the hospital and left him in Frankfurt and walked away. Helga was left at the babysitter. She walked away. My sister Joanne and I were given up to the Bingenheim. Reinhard and Jorgen are my 2 brothers. My mother married their father and had them. And those 2 I'm in contact with. Reinhard I'm closest to. She stayed married, did not give them up. But the 4 of us were given up for adoption. Why'd I write this book? Well, I did get the answer about did she love me? I got a better understanding of who I am and my family history. I did the DNA 23andMe, so everything was verified in that sense. And it was a healing part I did get rejected by some family members, and Helga publicly rejected me in Germany. I said my prayers because I did not want to, I took the high road, let's put it that way, but it was very painful, but I did work through it. I was laying on my bed at Hannah Laura's house in the Village after several incidents with Helga, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and that's how I got the title of my book, Too Brown to Keep. And then as I began writing my book, I realized that a search for love, forgiveness, and healing was imperative to me writing the book. And when I wrote my book, I really it wasn't about other people reading it. It was more about healing myself. And it also gave a legacy to my sons. These are my son, Chris and Chad. I have two sons. They're both married. And I'm proud of them because they've broken that. They are wonderful parents. I am a proud nana of 4 grandsons. And they are married, very much married. They are not back on my doorstep. And I'm excited about that. And a legacy, and I did have them read the book before I published it. I wanted them to know. And I also gave it to my sister. We were adopted together, Joanne. She lives in Houston, Texas. And I had them read it because I wanted to make sure that they knew before the public as I pushed the button on Amazon to publish the book. And I thought it was very important for them to know. Do I need to do any questions or should I do tips, Joan?
Sorry, I was unmuted. Let's see. We're doing okay on time. Let me look at questions because I think you've answered a lot of them.
Okay.
Because somebody was asking if you and your sister are adopted together. Yes, that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Somebody asked, why did Helga reject you? And
well, that's a good question because it explains the title of my book as well. Helga, well, I'm just going to say that Helga, I'm trying to word it. I'm just going to come out and say it was a racial issue for her. She loves my sister, Joanne, loves the boys, the brothers, but can't stand me. I mean, there was a hatred there, you know, it wasn't just not a dislike. And so why do I say it's racial is because she told Hannah Laura that I was the reason why my mother gave us up and abandoned us. And the only reason that would be is because during that time period, for any white woman to have a biracial baby, and I'm the dark-skinned one, my mother just wasn't going to keep us. And so that's the reason. She very publicly, I was at a birthday party actually, and there were a lot of people there, and she came up to me, and I'm not going to tell you anymore because you're going to have to read the book, but but she came up to me very publicly, and it was very painful. And I felt blessed that my mother had given me some Christian values because my normal instinct was to really get ugly, but I was not going to do that in front of everyone. And so I basically just walked away. So Too Brown to Keep came from that incident. And another incident, we were someplace else and she came, and she has no qualms about being mean.
okay, 2 more questions. One of them, they must have missed it, but it said, did you get to meet your birth mother?
I did. And actually, one thing about my book that I dearly love, that editors and publishers, before I decided to do it myself, didn't want me to do, and that is I put pictures throughout my book. And I didn't put them at the end nor in the beginning. I actually put my pictures when I was talking about, when I was writing about an incident. And I actually have a picture, the only picture actually, of my birth mother, and it does talk about when I met her. Her husband and my brothers, Reinhard and Jorgen, knew absolutely nothing about us, so she snuck away from the house in Germany. We hired a professional, not a professional, he was a professor from the university in Germany, and he was our interpreter. And so I did meet her. I met her once, and that was it. And it's all in the book.
Okay, and then another question, how does your sister, being the light one, assimilate her family background?
Are we talking about?
The question just says, how does your sister, being the, and it's in quote marks, light one, assimilate her family background?
Okay, she's like me. We're African American. People think she's white until I show up, but it isn't because she tells them she's white. You know, people assume things by just looking at the color of your skin. So she lives in Houston, Texas. All of her friends, everybody knows. I've been to a retirement party. She identifies as African American, and there's no kind of hiding anything. And I'm very proud of that piece of my sister.
And then one person was asking, we're hoping to get the how and the tips for actually writing this kind of book.
Yes, that's going to be my next.
Right, yeah. Okay, I'm going to mute myself again now.
Okay, good, thank you. I wasn't sure really where to go with this, so if you have other questions about lessons learned and tips, please put them in the chat box. I'd be happy to answer them. One of the dilemmas I had when I was writing was, how much should I write? And because I'm a first-time writer, I am a right-brained artsy person versus the left brain, dotting your I's, crossing your T's. You would be an editor or someone, you know, who's really into the details. And so as I began doing my research, I did my research and I doubled down in the sense that when someone told me something about my mother or my father or birth father and birth mother, I really, I double checked it. So that was the one thing that I did when it's coming to your ancestry. Just one person telling me something was not good enough for me. I needed to find out from different sources to make sure it was correct. I began writing having no idea how I was going to organize the book. I just began writing down different incidents that had occurred either in Germany on my visitation, or my thoughts, or remembering what my mom and daddy, American mommy and daddy, had told me. My older sister, she remembers a lot more. It's extremely painful for her, and so I did not get much from her, although I wanted to make sure she knew that I was writing this book, and she has since read it and has been very supportive of it. I also did research in regards to how much should I write, because there's a lot of competition in regards to people writing their autobiographies and memoirs, because you're competing against famous people who a lot of people will read their books simply because they're famous. And with all due respect to Michelle Obama, who I dearly love, I couldn't get through her book. Her book was too thick. There was too much in it. And maybe it's because I'm nuts and bolts kind of person. So I began to think about, okay, what are the interesting stories that I have that I couldn't have made up? I mean, my rejection, that public rejection, I tell you, that even hurts when I think about it and talk about it now. I couldn't have written that and made that up. You know, it's just, so I wrote on that. And as I began in my mind looking at all the information I had, I decided, for me, I decided 150 pages was more than enough. I wasn't doing any more than that because I wanted people to know my story, and I definitely wanted to be descriptive in it and be interesting, but at the same time, I didn't want to throw a lot of insignificant things in there. So it really depends on you. Did I want to write my whole story? No. My story is only about, I focused in on my adoption and researching and healing. I didn't talk about coming to Bakersfield. Well, I talked about Bakersfield, absolutely, the history of Bakersfield and growing up in Bakersfield. It is my hometown, but I do have to say to all of you, I mean, I grew up when the KKK was around in Bakersfield. So there are stories about, you know, how I was raised and what happened when we moved into an all-white neighborhood. At the same time, I've had great education, great friends of all races. And so I stopped at the time that I went to, after graduating from high school, and how that helped me. High school in Garces, I can't thank Garces and the nuns and for their education and my high school experience there. So how much should you write? I think you looking for researching your family tree and all of that, you want to ask yourself, where do I stop? You know, because there's a lot to you and a lot to your story. And so how do you focus in on whatever you want to focus in on in your life, okay? I also found that hiring the right people for the job is extremely important. There were times that I hired people that I wasn't comfortable with and would give me, well, one person said, well, nobody wants, you know, race and all that, and the title of your book is not going to sell because people are afraid of racial issues. And I said, you know what? I wrote this book. I don't care if one person doesn't read it. It was healing for me. I'm keeping the title. And I have found that people have been very open with my book, especially when they find out my book isn't really, race does come into play. It has to because of me being brown. But my book is also about a common human thread, and that is of being abandoned, experiencing grief and loss, and finding a way to forgive and to heal. And all of us in our lives, if you live long enough, you got somebody to forgive and something to heal in your life. And so that's really the basic thing that comes in. So looking at hiring the right people, sometimes you can make mistakes, and I did, and I lost money, but I didn't want to stay with that person, so I let them keep the money, and I kept on going. And I also found that through talking to people, through looking at what they've done before, some of them will send you some of their examples. And I also found through the internet, and I'm old school, so some of you may be laughing at me, but I tell you, I was excited. I went on this website, Reedsy, that, and there are others, but I used Reedsy, Reedsy, and one of my editors, who was phenomenal, she lived in the UK. So there were people, and I'm glad I chose her because she fit into my European piece, and she knew a lot of European history, especially World War II history in Germany, and she really helped me go the way. I had an editor, flow editor, and then I hired a second editor because I am a right brain person. I don't dot my I's and cross my T's, so I need people who do that, and I need to surround myself with people where I know I'm weak. So hiring the right people who have had maybe some experiences that you've had, or especially those of you who are talking about researching your ancestry, someone who can help you that has done this work before is very helpful. And I also did some research as well about, okay, what are experiences that people who have looked for their adopted parents, what have they experienced? And that prepared me for a second rejection, like my older brother and Helga, who rejected me for whatever reasons. It helped me. Now, was the pain there? Yes, but I was able to realize that it wasn't personal, that it wasn't really me. It was about them. Okay. And then having a clear vision, again, back to how much should I write? You want a clear vision, and it doesn't necessarily have to be clear when you first start writing. I know for when I began researching how to write, a lot of people said, oh, you have to have all the chapters named, and you have to have, you know, and I was like, okay, I'm never going to get it this way. So I began writing, and as I began writing different different things that I had experienced, my vision became clear. And if that fits your personality, fine. If you are one that you have to be really, truly organized, because I'm not knocking either way. But for me, being a first-time writer, I didn't have a clear vision. I knew my clear vision was that I was going to tell my story about finding my birth parents, but wasn't quite sure of anything else how to do it. And as I began writing, it just kind of unfolded. And my flow editor was great in regards to editing for flow. Does the book flow well in sequence, you know? And so on this Readsy site, you can hire people from all over the world. You can hire them just from the United States, and they have all kinds of different, they have editors, flow editors, but they also have, you know, publishers, you know, all kinds of people that you may want to consider hiring. Be able to say no, and that's one of the things, especially me being new. People would suggest things to me, and I'd feel like, well, I'm not sure about that. But, you know, I went with my gut feeling, and I'm so glad I did. And I was able to say no. A publisher did want to not only change my book title, but want to change some things in the book. And I said, nope, not going to do it. Now, I was frightened out of my mind because I felt them being a publisher, they knew more than I did. But my gut just said no. And so that's one of the reasons I went to self-publishing. I also was told that in self-publishing, that even if you have a publisher, I was told that you do a lot of the work yourself, even when you have a publisher. So I thought, well, if I'm going to have to do a lot of the work myself, I might as well self-publish. And it had nothing to do with money. What it had for me to do in self-publishing was I wanted to keep all the rights to my work. I didn't want somebody else saying, oh, you can't use this picture, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. And so I'm glad that I did the self-publishing. One of the negative parts of self-publishing I found is I sent my book to Oprah Winfrey. I sent my book to Spielberg. I sent my book to a lot of different people. And I got a lot of my books back unopened. So Joan and all of you, when you guys were applauding the rejection, I was like, oh, this is the group I need to be in, because I really felt some rejection there. I was like, oh my God, I have a good story. They won't even look at my book, you know? And so for some, I know with Oprah and some of the people that I sent my book to, they usually don't look at people that have self-published. They usually are from the big publishers. So that's something to consider. when you are determining. And I know for a lot of you, you are more experienced in this area than I am. But I'm glad that I kept my book. And I hustle, when we talk about marketing, before the virus, I really did a lot of marketing. And actually, I was booked up through November of this year with different, different places to present. So I've learned a lot. My sister Tammy, she's younger than I am. She was adopted as well, but I love her dearly because she has a lot of patience with me, and she has helped me on the internet doing, I didn't even know what Instagram was. I know you're laughing, but Instagram. And she has really been wonderful supporting me and many of my sorority sisters and a lot of people in Bakersfield. So I'm blessed to have been in Bakersfield so long and been around so many good friends that have helped me.
A couple of questions, Judy, if you don't mind.
No.
One person asked, how did you manage? Oh, perfect. Okay. Wow, we're on the same wavelength here.
We are.
How did you manage all the incidents as you learned them? In other words, did you use an app like Scrivener, or how did you keep your notes together?
Okay, I'm going to answer the question. As I answer the questions, I wanted to put this up for you to either take a picture of it or you can write it down, because I'd be happy to talk to any of you and visit with you. What I did is I used when I was in Germany, I used my iPad. And I did have a recorder as well. And my iPad, I can just send it, when you do notes and stuff, you can just send it to your computer. I had a recorder in Germany, but I didn't record anyone other than myself. Like I drove 3 hours to try to meet my older brother who didn't want to have anything to do with any of us. And I sat out in front of his house. And so I drove down the street and took my recorder out and recorded how I was feeling. So my recorder was more about my feelings. And then when Helga rejected me a couple of times, I pulled out my recorder as I was driving and pulled over to the side of the Autobahn and did that. How do I keep my notes together? Well, I knew like by day what happened in Germany or my research. I'm old school, so for some of you young folks, you may put it in a folder, but for me, I'm old school. So I also printed a lot of my research online about adoption and grief and loss and abandonment. I actually printed those out and I reread them, and then I would do notes on them. What happened to me as I began looking at my notes is I said, oh, this belongs with this story here of how I was feeling. And so I began taking some sequence. And then eventually, because I didn't name the chapters for a while, but I did do it by topic. I guess because I have a degree in social science. I love research. And so for me, gathering my notes and then starting to put the pieces together was easy for me, because that's how I got my degree in college, is I love research. I love finding information and finding people. Did I answer that?
For whoever asked it, hopefully. So another question, this is actually from me, but so finding the birth certificate with your birth parents on it, is that what helped you start the journey? Because I know there has to be a starting point for any type of genealogical research. So once you had those names, I mean, did you have like a Ancestry account? Did you use Ancestry? Did you mostly use the results from 23andMe? I mean, once you had a name, then you had to go backwards?
All right. Well, I tell you what, I'm glad you asked that question because I found my birth parents before the internet. Now, I'm going to repeat that, before the internet, okay? So what I did was my dad gave me the shoebox. I took it home, and over a few days, I read the information, and in the information of the adoption piece was the name of my mother and birth mother and the name of my birth father, knowing that he was American and a soldier and would have been, you know, World War II was certainly way over by then. So I found him in 1981, and I did it through, as I shared with you, and it's in detail in the book, is I literally called 411, the information operator. I told her I was looking for Earl J. Lawton in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, actually is where it was. And so, you know, during that time period, they would only give you 3 names and addresses at a time. So I would say thank you. I would then call those people. I said, hey, I'm doing my ancestry, and a name came up, and I'm seeing if you have any information about this person. And so and then I'd call the directory assistant back up, get me 3 more names, and I finally ran into my grandmother. So how I found my father was through the telephone, through my papers and through the telephone. And then when I went to visit him in Pemberton, New Jersey is where he lived with his family. After a year of keeping in contact with him, he invited me to visit. And so my sister Joanne and I went and actually met him face to face and his family. And he still spoke German. So once we left, he knew I was looking for my birth mother. And he also had baby pictures of me. First time I ever saw a baby picture of me made me realize that I really was a baby at one time. I know that sounds crazy, but I needed to see it. So he found my babysitter, Hannah Laura, and her mother, who was still alive at that time. And so in 1986, I flew to Germany and did my first visit with them. I did not go back to Germany because life took over, raising sons and all of that. And I didn't go back to Germany until 2008, after I retired. So basically, it's been a lifetime of searching because in between that, I needed to put things down so that I could do my life and raise my sons and that kind of thing. So I didn't do the internet until
Yeah.
later.
So then someone else did ask, did you research that side of the family, like your birth father? Did you research more than just him? Did you go, like your mother, you knew back to her mother, your grandmother, but how far back did you go for your dad's side, your birth dad?
Yeah. I didn't do much research on either one of them. Like I said, I found them both, one through the phone and then the other because my pops put me in contact with Hannah Laura. I have not done any research on my pops, Earl, because his family has a book, and they gave me the book that has all the research in it. So it goes back to his my great-great-grandparents.
Okay, so you do know that information.
Yes, I do have that information.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, but one of the things about African Americans is that you can only go back so far because slavery, and most African Americans that are here, when you keep going back, you're going back to slavery times, and they did not keep records. And I know that not only because I taught history, but also if you do ancestry.com or any of them, it'll stop you because it'll say slave boy 12 years old. That, you know, they give them names, so to speak. So that's a tough one. If you're African American and you're doing research, you're going to have a hard time once you hit the slavery period.
Yeah. So you mentioned you published your own book. Did you go through KDP, or did you have?
KDP.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
So,
I did Amazon, and I just did it because I was familiar. I have an account, and oh, and I also did through Ingram Spark.
Ingram Spark. Okay. So.
Yes, I have both of those.
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, if you go through KDP, that's through Amazon, but Ingram Spark, you can have it listed with indie booksellers.
Yes.
So, and Barnes and Noble and just everybody. So.
Yes, because I actually had a Barnes and Noble book signing that had to be canceled because of the virus. So, and usually Barnes and Noble will not do, well, they do self-publishing books now.
But they won't do Amazon self-published. You have to go through KDP. I mean, excuse me, Ingram Spark or something. Yeah.
They buy them through there, but
yes,
because I was local there and Barnes and Noble, I think his name is Corey, I can't remember, said he would do one. But yeah. You're right.
That's all the questions I have here. If anybody else has a question, we've got a few minutes left. Because I know we've been here almost 2 hours now, and this has just been amazing. So do you know how to stop sharing your screen?
You know what?
It's a red button at the top where it says stop share.
Here we go. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Now did I stop?
There you go. I think. No, you were still looking at your.
Okay, hang on. I can see you guys. Let me say stop
Yeah,
share.
there you go. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Bless you. You guys, I need help.
It's okay. I've got stuck once. I had no idea how to stop sharing, and people have had to walk me through it.
As principal, interim principal, I have 2 young vice principals, so they always do the meetings for me.
Somebody asked if you were related to Dr. Billingsley, the vet in Tehachapi.
I don't know, because that is a married name, and so it could be a possibility. I don't know.
Okay. So Donna, did you have anything where you, I know we talked about this ahead of time. I can't remember now who's finishing off the meeting, but.
You were finishing off the meeting.
Okay. I didn't take notes. I mean, see what happens when I don't write things down. I don't remember. So.
But we do have another question. It said, do you speak German?
No, I do not. Unfortunately, I don't. And I don't even pretend to try to learn. It was a really difficult language for me, I tell you. So I speak with my hands, and and I wanted to also share that you're welcome to email me, call me, or whatever. I'd be happy to send. I know Joan mentioned about possibility of a handout or whatever, but I did do some tips. I did write some things down. So if you're interested, I'd be happy to email you that sheet that has tips on it. Okay.
I think what we were going to do, Judy, is because after this presentation is done, it's being recorded. Once it's ready to go, then we were going to we're going to post the link, but with the link, I think we were also going to send it to everyone that registered for. And so if you do have something you want us to send out, just get it to me by tomorrow, and then we can send the link and your paperwork out at the same time.
All right. Okay.
Is that okay? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you see the link posted, then it'll be on Facebook and whatnot. But then, like I said, I'll have Natalia, our webmaster and all around amazing guru person. She'll send it out with the paperwork. So we'll just wait to make sure we get Judy's paperwork. And of course, yes, look for her book. I know it's, if you just Google her name, it'll come up. So
yes.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful story. It's a story of courage and healing and just, I don't know. It's an amazing story. So Thank you for being here. Thank you for reaching out to us, because that's how we found Judy. She actually, when she was doing all of her marketing, she sent an email to us at Writers at Kern and said, I'm a Bakersfield person and I've got this book. So
Well, Bakersfield is my home. My parents are both, buried there, and I still have my home there. I still own my home, and in fact, I was in Bakersfield a while back. So
she lives in Sacramento right now. So for those of you that don't know.
So thank you very much. I really appreciate you listening to me, and please reach out to me. You guys, a lot of you are veterans, so Joan, I'm going to be calling you up.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
thank you so much.
And yes, thank you, Judy. Thank you, everyone. We've gone a little bit longer today. I have no problem with going a little bit longer, but I just want to say thank you for being here, and thank you for your museful moments and everything else. Next month, our meeting will be our summer conference. I have to stop myself. So next month we'll be meeting early, and we'll probably do some breakout rooms during the conference so people can talk and visit and whatnot. So anyway, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bless you. Thank you.